The Disappearance of Robin Hood began in 2011, and it's a collaboration between the research group Interdisciplinary Design Collective called Urban Think Tank, which is based in Zurich in Switzerland, which researches informality and social architecture in different parts of the world. And the project, like I said, began in 2011 when news of this historic, iconic building, Robin Hood Gardens, that it was going to be demolished, started to appear. There was a contentious battle to preserve it, to keep it as a listed building, and that battle was actually lost. So in 2011, when it was clear that it was probably going to be demolished, my colleagues flew right away to the site and began to start filming there. It turned out that actually the demolition wouldn't take place for another 7 years or so, which is takes us to the end of last year. And that's how we also knew that finally we were ending the film. It's hard to say that because their goal was to create a building with particular qualities that had to do with human habitation in a growing city, and they did make that building and people did live there and they lived all of those qualities. If you want to say that their intention was also for that housing project to endure generations and endure the changes of the city, well, we can see by the fact that it was demolished that that goal was not fulfilled. Still, being able to talk about it now through films or through discussions or as a political event, in a way it's connecting to that desire that they originally had. Well, again, I say that this was a collaboration between myself and my colleagues at the Urban Think Tank, specifically Daniel Schwartz and Alfredo Brillenberg, who were sometimes, especially in the early parts of the shootings, the only people there. I think documentary filmmaking is often about adapting to a situation. When you're in an interview situation, you have a series of questions that in your mind you're going to ask, but it might be that in the middle of the conversation, it goes somewhere else. And in fact, it goes somewhere else in a very interesting way. And if you're able to capture that, that's sometimes when the magic happens. So it inevitably happened in different parts, and looking at all the footage, even at times in which I was looking at footage where I wasn't present, I could tell that we were going into uncharted territory. And that was great. That was usually the moments I was looking for. Yeah, I think in the different images in the film we see different flats and different apartments that people have, and part of the, I think, nice things about those scenes is to see exactly how they did it, what kind of objects they have in their homes. There was one scene that I particularly like in which an elderly man is playing with his organ. And the fact that it's his hobby, but it's also kind of ingrained in the personalized activities of the building, and that music carries us through different shots, different houses, different parts of the building. I think that speaks to me a little bit about the fact that there's a human spirit behind all this, and maybe music, if you want, behind the fact of an apartment. Well, I would say the final feelings are summarized maybe in a scene in the movie, or the way that scene makes me feel, which is a kind of a complex set of emotions. And that's in which we see kind of a triptych, 3 different images, one after the other. And the first is the disappearance of the building through this white mist. Then we see an architectural rendering of the building that's coming. And then we see the tractors and different construction machines turning the blocks of concrete and different debris into dust. And so here we have 1, 2, 3, past, present, future, but not necessarily in that order. And for me, the entire film is about asking those questions in terms of where ideas about social housing or ideas about the identity of the city should go. Past, present, future, where are we now? What direction are we going in? Very impressive in its heterogeneity. And when I was reading different monument descriptions, I kept rereading the same word, which is also the word that you can use to describe the city, which is eclectic. Very eclectic, somehow navigating also, like in Robin Hood Gardens, different periods, different eras. And I think the question for Bucharest is, well, what era is it in now, and how is it navigating that era? And depending on what part of the city you're talking about, you might have a different answer for that.